Episode 3, even short. The clippers press against my scalp. I watch in the mirror as they plow through my curls, leaving almost nothing behind. Just tiny bristles, bare skin showing through. This woman, this hairdresser with the cruel smile, she's not stopping. Please, I whisper, that's enough. Sit still, girl, we're not done yet. I close my eyes. What have I agreed to? Previously, on the transformation, Sarah agreed to cut her long hair to help David's career. Despite her fears, she walked into Betty's beauty parlor with waist-length auburn hair. Mrs. Hood cut it brutally short, barely covering her ears, with a cleanly shaved neckline. Then came the tight perm and old-fashioned set. Sarah barely recognized herself. She looked severe, older, like someone's conservative grandmother. But David loved it. He made her promise never to grow it back. 4 months passed. Sarah got used to her short curls, even started to like them. Her hair grew out, the perm loosened. Her shaved neck grew back. She started to look more like herself again. That's when David asked her to cut it again. But this time, even shorter. And now, she's about to discover what even shorter really means. 4 months after my first big cut, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. I'd gotten used to the short curls, even enjoyed them, actually. They were easy, wash, let them air dry into soft waves, and I was done. No more hours with hot rollers, no more sleeping in that uncomfortable hairnet. My hair had grown to about 3 inches on top, long enough to cover my ears again. My neck had grown out from that stark shaved line into actual hair that touched my collar. I felt more like myself. That Tuesday evening, I was at David's cottage, helping him prepare for a church committee meeting. He'd been quieter than usual all day. "Sarah," he said finally, "can we talk about something?" My stomach tightened. Those words never led anywhere good. "Of course." He sat down across from me, taking my hands. "You know I love you, right? And I think you're beautiful." "David, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, it's just..." He reached up and touched my hair. "Your hair's grown out quite a bit, and you look lovely, you do, but..." "I miss how you looked right after Mrs. Hood's. That clean, professional look, the shaved neckline, how it showed off your face." I pulled back slightly. "You want me to cut it again?" "Just a trim, maybe a little shorter than last time, especially around the ears." He gave me that hopeful smile. And I was thinking, maybe we could find a salon that really specializes in traditional styles. Mrs. Hood was good, but she's semi-retired. There might be someone who could do an even better job. Even shorter, even more traditional. I looked at him, this man I loved, who'd given me a new life, a new purpose, who looked at me like I was everything he'd ever wanted. And I heard myself say, "Okay, I'll do it." His whole face lit up. "Really? You'd do that for me? How short are we talking?" He thought for a moment. "Well, maybe like that elderly lady who was at Mrs. Hood's, with the really clean neckline and the hair tapering up around the ears. That would be perfect." That woman's hair had been very short, almost no hair on the sides at all. And the perm. As tight as possible. I love those firm curls on you. I nodded slowly. "Do you have a salon in mind?" Aunt Margaret mentioned someone, Edith Murray. She said Edith did a really nice job on someone she knows. Edith Murray. I'd heard that name before. Aunt Margaret had mentioned her once as a last resort. That should have been my first warning. The next morning, Aunt Margaret called Edith. "You're in luck," she said, hanging up. "She had a cancellation, can take you today at 2 o'clock. She paused. "But Sarah, I need to warn you, Edith's very traditional. She has strong opinions about how young women should look. Don't let her get carried away." That warning made my stomach drop. But the appointment was made. David took the afternoon off. We'd drive there together. I dressed carefully. My black all-in-one girdle, the really tight one, dark blue stockings, a navy dress with a high collar. Conservative, respectable. Ready to be transformed again. We drove through a series of back streets in a rundown part of town. Finally found the address. Edith's salon wasn't a shop. It was a converted front room of an old house. Grimy net curtains, weeds growing through cracks in the concrete, a battered trash can by the door. "David, I don't know about this." "Trust me," he said, eyes bright with excitement. "This is perfect." The smell hit me first, stronger than Mrs. Hood's. Decades of perm solution and hairspray soaked into every surface. The salon was tiny, one chair even older than Mrs. Hood's, a stained sink, two ancient Hood dryers, one with tape over a split in the seat. And hair everywhere, cut hair of various colors scattered across the dark floorboards, like no one had swept properly in days. Then Edith emerged from a back room. She was intimidating. Easily in her 70s, a very large woman with a severe face, thin lips, flabby jowls. Her hair was pure white and cut brutally short. She wore a stained nylon overall, wrinkled stockings, and carpet slippers. She looked me up and down with disapproval. Then she saw David's clerical collar, and her expression softened slightly. "You the young lady for a cut and perm?" Her voice was rough, commanding. My mouth went dry. I couldn't speak. David stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am. We're very grateful you could fit us in. There's a lot to do, but would you mind if I stayed to watch?" "Not at all, Reverend. Always good to see a man who takes an interest in his lady-looking proper." She turned to me. "Well, you coming or not?" She grabbed a faded gown from a hook, shook it, and several white hairs fell from it and held it open. I hesitated. This place was terrible, dark, dirty, wrong. But David's hand was on my shoulder, gently guiding me forward. "It's going to be fine," he whispered. I slipped my arms into the grubby gown. She tied it tight around my neck. In the chair. I sat down. The leather was cracked and worn. I put my feet on the metal rest and gripped the armrests. In the mirror, I looked terrified. Edith combed my hair down straight. It fell just past my ears now, not long, but longer than it had been. She turned to David. "What are we doing?" And David, my sweet, supportive David, stepped forward and took control. A bubble cut, extremely tight perm. The length should be much shorter than last time, especially around the ears. Make sure it's well clear. And the neckline should be clipped to blend in, then shaved smooth. Extremely short, well clear of the ears. Edith smiled, actually smiled. "Now that's a proper haircut. Don't see many young ladies willing to have a traditional bubble cut at the length it should be done anymore." She looked at me in the mirror. "Last time, whoever did this left it far too long. We're going to correct that today." "Wait," I started. But she'd already picked up her scissors. She didn't waste time. A section on top, combed up, cut to about 1.5 inches, the same as last time. Then she turned to David. "This is about the length she had before. How much shorter were you thinking?" He walked over, studied my hair. "Could it go shorter?" "Certainly. For a bubble style with tapered sides, we should be shorter than this." She moved her fingers down the raised section of hair. I couldn't see where they stopped. "What about here?" David asked. "Perfect. That's the traditional length. Not many nowadays willing to have it cut proper." "Yes," David said. "Let's do it properly." She cut the same section again. This time, she cut it down to less than 1 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Then she started working over my whole head, cutting everything to that brutally short length. I started crying. "Please," I whispered, "that's too short." "Sit still, girl," Edith snapped. "You asked for a proper cut, you're getting one." Hair was falling everywhere. Even though it wasn't long to begin with, there was a shocking amount piling up on the cape. Both ears were completely exposed now, more exposed than before. She pushed my head forward, and I heard them. The electric clippers. She pressed them hard at the base of my neck. The vibration was intense. They rose up, higher than Mrs. Hood had gone. She placed a comb in my hair about 1/2 inch above my ear, then ran the clippers up the comb, angled outward. A large mass of curls fell into my lap. She did it again, and again, creating a tapered fade around my entire head. My ears looked huge now, surrounded by clippered skin and tiny bristles. When she finally put down the clippers, she picked up the straight razor. She scraped it all over my neck and around my ears, removing every trace of hair from the tapered areas. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a boy, like someone in the military. There was barely any hair left. "Now," Edith said with satisfaction, "you're ready for your perm." The perm was even worse than Mrs. Hood's. Edith used the tiniest rods I'd ever seen, smaller than anything I thought possible. The perm solution was so strong it made my eyes water. The smell was unbearable. Under the dryer, my scalp burned. The rods pulled so tight I thought they'd rip the hair out. When she finally rinsed and removed them, I had impossibly tiny, tight curls, like a very short afro, so tight I could see my scalp clearly between each curl. Then she picked up the clippers again. "Wait, you already cut it," I said, panicked. "That was rough cutting. Now we refine." She ran the clippers over a comb through the top of my head, clipping the curls even shorter. I watched them fall, full, perfect curls landing in my lap. When she finished, my hair was less than half an inch long on top. The setting came next, the tiniest mesh rollers with sharp spikes, then the dryer, then the comb out. The final result was shocking. Very short waves going over the top of my head, my entire forehead exposed, my ears completely bare, surrounded by shaved skin. The back was clipped into a perfect taper, ending in a shaved line so high it looked almost shaved halfway up my head. But the color was wrong. The perm solution had lightened my auburn hair to an orangey ginger color. I looked washed out, harsh. 2 coats of heavy lacquer sealed everything. "Perfect," Edith announced. "A proper young lady now." David walked over, ran his hand up my shaved neck. "It's exactly what I wanted, better than I imagined." But I could barely hear him. I was staring at this stranger in the mirror. We paid and left. Outside, 2 young mothers with strollers walked past. They stared at me, actually stopped and stared, at this young woman with such an extreme, old-fashioned haircut coming out of a rundown salon. I wanted to die. 3 days later, we were driving to New York for my friend's wedding. I'd tried to fix the orange color, found a salon, Eve Telly's, an old traditional place near my old neighborhood. While David got his hair trimmed at a barber shop, I went in for a set. But once I was in the chair, I made impulse decisions. "Can you dye it?" I asked. "Cover the orange." The hairdresser showed me a color chart, very dark brown, almost black. "Yes," I said, "do it." While the dye processed, she looked at my eyebrows. "Those need shaping. Full brows don't suit your hairstyle." "Okay." She plucked them into thin, high arches, surprised-looking, severe. When she finished the dye and set my hair, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My hair was nearly black now. The contrast with my shaved neck was even more dramatic. The thin eyebrows made me look shocked, older, harder. I didn't look like a 23-year-old anymore. I looked like a conservative, middle-aged woman. David loved it. The wedding was uncomfortable. My old friends didn't recognize me at first. Linda actually gasped when she realized who I was. "Oh my God, your hair, what happened?" I tried to sound confident. I wanted a more mature image. They were polite, but I could see the shock in their eyes, the confusion. During the reception, Linda and her friends got drunk and called me Miss Prim. They laughed at my conservative dress, my severe hair. I looked at them, their short skirts, their cleavage showing, their wild hair, and felt superior. They looked cheap, trashy. I'd moved beyond that. I left early with David, relieved to escape. Back at the hotel, David helped me put rollers in my hair for the night, the small plastic ones that would preserve the set. He stretched the hairnet over them, his fingers lingering on my shaved neck. "You're perfect," he whispered. "My perfect lady, this is exactly who you're meant to be." And lying there in bed, wearing my vintage nightgown, my hair in a netted rollers, looking nothing like the girl I used to be. I believed him. 1 month later, I was completely comfortable with my new look. I loved my super tight curls when they dried naturally. I was proud of how different I looked from my old friends, how mature, how respectable. I'd made new friends in Tennessee, including Emma, a young mother with a baby married to Paul. She had the most beautiful waist-length blonde hair. One Tuesday morning, Emma came into Aunt Margaret's shop for coffee. She looked exhausted. Her hair was scraped back in a messy ponytail. She played with it absently. "I can't manage this anymore. The baby's always grabbing it. Food gets stuck in it. It takes forever to wash." She looked at me directly. "I'm thinking about cutting it. Short like yours, with a perm. It's so practical, so feminine. Would you help me find a place?" I knew exactly where to take her. The same place that had given me this extreme cut. Edith's salon. "Of course," I said, smiling. "I'll take you myself." Emma beamed with relief. "Thank you. I just want something easy. Short curls. Not as short as yours, maybe a little longer, but definitely a fresh start." I made the appointment for Thursday at 2. But here's what I didn't tell Emma. Edith doesn't do, not as short. Edith doesn't listen to what you want. And once you're in that chair, once she starts cutting, you get what she thinks you need. I should have warned her, but I didn't. Because while Emma was in that chair, getting her beautiful long hair cut off, I made a decision that shocked even David. I decided to prove my commitment once and for all, by getting my hair cut even shorter than before. What happened in that salon that Thursday afternoon changed both of us forever. Emma walked in with waist-length blonde hair and walked out looking like someone's grandmother. And me. I walked out with barely any hair left at all. The question is, did I find myself that day? Or did I lose the last piece of who I used to be? Find out in the final episode, 2 transformations. Okay, I need to hear from you. Comment below. Is David supportive or manipulative? Some of you think he's controlling Sarah's appearance. Others think she's making her own choices. Which side are you on? Would you have gone to Edith's salon? Knowing how extreme it was, would you have taken Emma there? Would you have gone back yourself? How short is too short? At what point does a haircut go from transformation to something else entirely? Hit that like button if you're hooked on this story. We're building to an intense finale. And subscribe because episode 4 is the conclusion you won't want to miss. Sarah and Emma both in Edith's salon at the same time. One getting her first extreme cut, the other getting an even more extreme one. Trust me, the ending will leave you thinking. Final episode drops in 3 days. See you then.